Gilg Jew, Gilg J as Gilg Nerach.
Showed you Claare na Gael, a smile am Shuish Altacha. My name is Robert Cateen Carswell, Robert a Carslach.
I've heard tell of old Bobby Bob.
And it's my pleasure to present this programme, which is called Claare na Gael. Claire Viscola Junda once de Chinya. It's a bilingual programme in the English language as Sachilg, and in the Manx Gaelic, Chinya na Mera, the mother tongue of Ellen Vanning, the Isle of Man. As Banach and Jurish. The Reverend Thomas Stephen has led us on the road north out of Balaf, in fact, but there we'll pause until next time, because this time instead we take a trip to Laxey to view an art exhibition and its musical accompaniment with the launch of a new book of poetry, haiku, history, folklore and illustrations. We start with some singing by Cornish singers, the Aggie Boys Choir, with the band The Rowan Tree, with a song about the Cornish motto, Onen hag al, one and all. Tashu geistach rish radio vanning, stashu na nashun, viskuller skeliena was stulish, Ellen Vanning.
Cornishman, stalwart and true, and his work to do, he didn't hide the where nor when. But the brave and the stone till the ocean wave, toiling deep beneath the ground, where'er the spot, whate'er his lot, the Cornishman is found. What an old have duty's gold, shoulder to shoulder we stand no foe, land nor sea, where we be, the Cornish are ready, aye, one and all. So we sing, leave or return, God spare our souls as we sail away for India. Leave our children and our wives, say goodbye to our former lives. Those who are left stand by our sides as away we go to India. One and all our duties call, shoulder to shoulder we stand or fall. Land or sea, wherever we be, the Cornish are ready, aye, one and all.
One and All, performed by the Rowan Tree and the Aggie Boys Choir. Well, now let's to Laxey. We're here in the Hodgson-Loom Gallery in Laxey until the 25th of September. There's an exhibition of the work of Paul Quayle on, and Paul's here with me now. So tell us about the exhibition, its title and how it came about.
36 Views of Snaefell. It's inspired by Japanese artist Hokusai's 36 Views of Mount Fuji, which were a series of woodblock prints that were published in Japan in 1831 to 1833. And I took a notion that I was going to look at Snaefell from different angles around the island, and initially work towards wood carvings. And then when I started to go out, I wrote a poem at one of the sites and thought, oh, well, I better do some poems while I'm out and about too. And the whole thing gathered a life of its own and ended up being quite a long book, talking about the history of the places. And then I also pulled in some friends to collaborate. My old schoolmate, Pasty Alan Brown, who's done paintings and photography here. It's one of his of Mount Fuji there, from when he was actually in Japan. So there's all nice connections as it went along. And I've ended up painting as well, just a new experiment for me, completely new.
Henk drist de vraag mare na smoon van Roshen, glout de gay hash, Virgin de groene stjach de goljunie, grish maar wesh lie. As gedege ek denje, ach een geel glaasje in de sok. No de ren boeruge dorren, as na roeten tarni, as tarmen na tonnen fivoer kast na truden dolle maag, eer na surgeon na vadrai. We gaulen na heilsje ronsi, frail ristierige erbiele furt, herrische galuchjaar, bol wat jurklerische woelje, as ren denje furchten as enel. Dat has hem, rennen gie gol schies, de wijn jaar goei, as rennen ver maren jeen vraagt maar jair soelse rijden, as esch, mirabeli dictu. Eder na colwen, limme vai ton gouds vai seidige, eg viewed gouden vully, van schooner jory, na skebe roosje blest, lesh ulju na shoel trogget, as chosen stjach on soutjes afert. Dair en seilsje ronsi as va ulju renne agen krauw. Now, Paul Quayle is inspired by Japanese art and tradition. In 1981, a singer called Anika was a one-hit wonder with a song called Japanese Boy. Well, she was, in fact, Mary Sandeman, who recorded under her own name Manx Gaelic na Halaba, as here. And that's Ian McLachlan's 1958 tune, Dr. Mackay's Farewell to Claare. In 1962 it was used as the theme for a BBC television serial, The Dark Island, all about espionage, submarine espionage off Benbecula in the Outer Hebrides. And it was also made into a radio adaptation of that in 1969 using the same theme tune. The tune attracted English words as The Dark Island. There's at least two versions of a song called The Dark Island based around that tune, and there's also that Gaelic version, Antellian Dorracha, as sung there by Mary Sandeman. Son Connalt Rishan Stura, va Corp Maru, les Ciawn Croma Shis, ren leiste de grene huggers vai les dach gleisige along. Gerau komme bielier agen a laut de chorer bi. Henk atjem moer ulju, gouds wat tiggle, de rauwe long, maar de bege troet middel, gaasne stjachse feut, gin stura limme jeeg lau, dunja maru. Ach, ha gerolje na stavi na vis gull kiau, de skrew na fog dan sjo. Ha rauw fargach eg een schooner. Ach, renne rai herrische feurt, de gjouwe hien een garnen schende genie is de gili skebage, eg immer die tijdigen as immer die stermen stjach ons uljen jaar aase gallu, vis gubbemaag van een jaar. As en se neud shen maar, kallu kronk tate. De doegezag voor boelje moer, gouds rennen bij de immen soes garneen genie. Chont, wat dagspaar, ted de stay, a smarshal noes, heng pert jane gully hoes.
There's also work here by Julie Roberts and Julia Ashby Smythe, who've taken aspects of folklore from some of the places where I've made my site visits to. And there's a painting there too by Michael Starkey, and there's also some sculptures by Robert Jones. And what you can hear now in the background is some ambient background music composed by my mate Sid Gilbert as well. This is inspired by the idea of the background music, a genre in itself in Japan where public spaces would have this sort of ambient background music playing in museums, art galleries. It was something that kicked off a lot in the 1980s, 90s, and even since then, inspired initially by a movement in Japan in the late 70s where composers were looking towards people like Brian Eno, and Eric Satie as well was very popular. And this sort of minimalist background, sounds of nature really, to bring the sounds of nature into the gallery spaces in the cities was the big idea.
And that's Welsh harp player Dylan Cernew, which suggests Cornish ancestry perhaps, Cernew, and pianist Iona Jones with a piece called Gwalia, one of the poetic names for Wales.
Manx Radio.
Sio diw stasiwn yn asiwn radio fanning, as yn sio, tasiw geisiach rys Claare na Gael, mish Robert Gytyn Corswell, Robert y Corslach.
Did the other hear tell of old Bobby Bob?
Well, in approaching Snaefell, then, how did you go about it? What were you looking for in looking at Snaefell from the 36 different views, and how did you, in fact, trim it down to 36? Because I'm sure you must have looked at it from very, very different aspects.
Yeah, there's actually 46. Because I did 46 in the end. There was 46 published, so yeah, I've done the same. I've done 46 poems. The views are a bit more freer. There's no tie to particular numbers and places there. People have just really explored it as they wanted to, as have I. But yeah, just going around really, just wandering around places that were familiar. And once you started looking at Snaefell, it started to reveal itself in different ways, just the subtle difference in walking 100 yards. It would completely change sometimes and disappear even. And then the other thing that occurred to me was that without the towers, it would be difficult to know where it is a lot of the time. Whereas in Japan, Mount Fuji is so dominant in the entire landscape. There's a difference there in those two mountains. And yet, the first poem that really inspired it all was one day when I seen Snaefell with snow on it, when the rest of the landscape didn't have any snow at all. And that was the first poem, a dusting of snow, but Snaefell is a white mountain. And that reminded me of places like Mount Kailash and Mount Fuji, which are usually snow-covered. And of course the name Snaefell, snow mountain in Norse.
Ach na sgwai na olio, an tullach van trai na ventenrish, ren maud a fi woer clistel nis gus a laut waig fo, mar de berge kout soes liorish a wolje, as rai gus a taiacht, ren a limme vain woeg gus a geinjach. As golde girach gus an in ochtach, Balt en rollik kroge erskin a wallach koen gus a challo jaar go eenach, terwijl kiusje na klagen ai rei, thrufsteins, na trud klagen wat het greiru ons blaas Whitby, de firrenjach gobba maag erskin boelt en in kummel soesed dusjem vai. Haie a shiljes a dorges, wat gien de vei njaartige, kjart tjau hal je focus a heilsje ronsi. Hager een rauw pecher beeg getreisjen, kolug kronk teet, noder rauw ulju jousen as na taien fagus de sen, saljavi, na moei na urgen hoes. Maar so, sjen arde koes kormich, tjau jaar na purte, is reneschen rijtje lirach schieskus a challo beg, van giedveeg de grappel boerd. Now, with words by Dewna Kirk, Carna Gray, in translation from an American song against strong drink, this is Gregory Jochen and the Mollig Band.
Gael, Canard and Cael and Vocht. Logo you sure a drag me some slack down by the ark. Charman in Vista, King Jack, Street, Trimid, Murderlock. Hawk me McCree to skin gat me some slack down by the ark. Slack down by the ark, slack down by the ark. Hawk me McCree to skin gat me some slack down by the ark. Slack down by the ark, slack down by the ark. Hawk me McCree to skin gat me some slack down by the ark. To Roosters box, to douche to chiller, runs the free push like down by the yard. Spit and couch on straw shack in or cabin best to lack. They clashed and joust and clear crow, walks slack down by the yard. Slack down by the yard, slack down by the yard. They clashed and joust and clear crow, walks slack down by the yard. Slack down by the yard, slack down by the yard. They clashed and joust and clear crow, walks slack down by the yard. Jock fresh to laugh to show me the road on treading and so push like down by the yard. Brooking a snow tod now is best to go feel at your mark. The green I fish to scarrow the shock slack down by the yard. Slack down by the yard, slack down by the yard. The green I fish to scarrow the shock slack down by the yard. Slack down by the yard, slack down by the yard. The green I fish to scarrow the shock slack down by the yard.
The Mollugs, slackly unbind the yoch, I like a drop of drink. Nadania va gavrige en sailje ronsi, looked thou ronsige de gier en trailest na purte, gin fag en weg, renadeish en sailje jierige een long boer tjurich, as frele day on shen. Ren en arre de koes raiges en jerre, as tre henke ljorische wheel. Chromish rosh de scrutigie, as renne limmer goel a tjoel, maar de bech enjacht en enjach jit de altajum. Ve gin, de ren shaw greinige jiri cajin son tuliufis, as gauw irremoer de loer de lai gol toyach der rai. She red ljouwer de loer me giert vain een hier, ljorish en droche troggy, gus collu kronk tait, ach, tan naiach der jou na rijde mij de loer, as renk me vader as me ren en channel. Ach, tre renk me, chur me channel na go grunje gehanne a challu, as ren na arder en koes as na mer en she, gobble de liggede chit der boerd.
So that was what really got me thinking about it, how it changes and how we sometimes don't really think about these things a lot of the time. And the towers are a weird one because they sometimes I've included them, other times not. I didn't know what to do a lot of the time because until, of course, the middle of the 20th century, there wouldn't have been any towers on it. And it's fascinating to see the old postcards without the towers a lot of the time. And the only time you can get to see that now is if the mist comes down just enough to cover them, which does happen, but it's an enigmatic mountain. And that was something I found with the folklore too, that the folklore wasn't obvious with Snaefell. It was quite subtle and I think probably censored over the centuries as well, possibly. But there's some intriguing stuff there at times, which I've written about in the book.
Well, that's one of the things I found interesting, looking at your wood carvings here and also at the paintings that you've made. What's evident is the line of the hills. Obviously, the background to your study, you did a study of the Manx landscape, and that's many layered because of the political and social aspects of them as well. And yet, you appear to be looking to something very fundamental.
Yeah, I call that a distillation of the landscape, just down to a single silhouetted line, which is like what you'd see at night time, I suppose, on the horizon. But yeah, that seemed an interesting way to look at it.
Now, Christine Merienne and Elisa Velianiti made up the Breton harp duo Cedren, although Elisa Velianiti has Greek ancestry and now performs songs in the Greek language. Well, just to confuse the issue even more, here they sing a setting of the English poem by W.B. Yeats, Among School Children, but they call it the Labour Song.
Labour is blossoming or dancing where the body is no bruise to pleasure soul, nor beauty burns out of its own despair, nor be right wisdom out of midnight oil. Chestnut tree, great rooted blossomer, are you the leaf, the blossom, or the bone? Body sweet to music or brightening glance, how can we know the dancer from the dance? Chestnut tree, great rooted blossomer, are you the leaf, the blossom, or the bone? Body sweet to music or brightening land, how can we know the dancer from the
And that's the Breton harp and song duo who are called Cedren.
And then the paintings are a further abstraction of that, I suppose, and just playing about, really, just exploring things and having fun. And yeah, it's been good fun.
And looking at the paintings particularly, you mentioned in doing them that you've been looking at a single brushstroke as something that from tradition.
Yeah, that's another part of it as well. The paintings were inspired by the one-stroke painting genre, which seems to have been initiated by contemporary Japanese artist Kazuaki Tanahashi, who's been based in America since the late 70s. He does a lot of calligraphy, but he does other things too, a lot of Zen circles. Yeah, the idea being that the single stroke capturing that same sort of awareness, I suppose, and of the present moment as what I would get in a haiku poem. So it seemed a natural sort of progression to try and paint like that for me. And then I started as well with multiple single lines. It was an idea I started playing about with, thinking about folklore and the multi-dimensional nature of folklore. I was reading a lot of Mona Douglas's stuff, which triggered that idea at times, and I realised that folklore has always existed in a different dimension almost, that maybe people get glimpses of. And then you think about modern string theory and all in physics, and how that predicts possibly an infinite number of parallel universes. So who knows? So I was enjoying that idea of parallel worlds as well. That started to come into it.
Trúd Courtoilid and Erd Fair va kiedem, morn naich der, drappel gus a lout, as va mi fairjay podden beg, honnek a sholter maru, gouds ve ons riechid, kjonnelt rish a wheel. Genjeris ve der au yindis eg een narre de koes, na eer der au atje mer, no, nach bewennig oddach lieder reer der we kronich. Gerauwen dunje ach kjonnelt eg na lauwen egge, sniemit lesh een derre lau herish a lau elje, rish speke wheel. Eder een lau stai as een fooi va crucifix, as een zet de groenine norivish jint shigge, me giet der wannel a lauwen as a wheel. As ul you frill John Lorish na corden kjanli. Fuddy drouw en je bacht na hai kuut drouw, ach, va bennelt as boelje na sjoil, en navrige troet sture a wheel, as a jarne hugge as vai, drouw na corden juisen we sniemit, jaren veel gus a grauw. Van nood kjaart, jint je steed de gul rid. Moira Nivranach, one of her compositions about the wife of Manlin and Claare, fanned.
The Nation Station, Manx Radio.
Stasiwn and Asiwn tane show radio vanning, showed you Claare na Gael, Maren Peen, Robert Catin Corswell, Robert a Corslach.
Have you ever had tell of old Bobby Bob?
Ren Fairley J.M. Caffin, J. Iru 3 Jegas feed in a Deliat jaar, ren Chilirach Malug. Vogrige maag looked at Gino Scrutach, de rauwen dunjes on Shigris erwe maru is sledden der lei. Ze fogedegge va costrail, as aircongi de kerelach, as follum, limme J. rolle beg de feber. As henke maag, de rausjen addendum gus een lior linje. Door de narde koester en een dunje weet je in kjanle lauwen heen, Gino John na kranten les na fieglenegge. Voor die de gin een nie, de rauw arde koesen geet veiger boerd, Kosja kiest de galiden na sanmi, ons een gweel waren. Son genel kid de garderen koes korsja geem, son sauel jinges, wissen ger egen gid gevolach goler boerd long regit. Ach, Hanna, ten a tjengen laach goller krij. As de ons doe der eigen lai, shadower, ons korei eurt, de wel kerne geluder Hanna de bollach in Gael.
In a strange way, reducing things to a fairly simple line, a fairly fundamental line. In fact, reminds you that there are so many other layers to these things as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and things like the folklore that comes through. The stories in the folklore are, there's so many layers of memory and in those stories, and they'll often be a bit jumbled up with you, and you get it's like you get snippets of one story in a thing, and then there's other bits of. You can almost almost like a cryptic exercise in trying to see all the different elements in a what may seem like a simple story that somebody collected, and yet they're so complex.
And yet your simple line is not a complete abstraction, of course, because you can recognise places in it. You've rendered places which are identifiable.
Yeah, they just started off as simple birthday and Christmas presents, not about Snaefell to start with. I was, again, just playing about in the shed with wood, and then they just developed. But yeah, hopefully it's kind of recognisable. If I was being really cryptic or whatever, I could leave the towers out all the time and you'd never work out where it is, I suppose, in some of them. But yeah, I suppose it is recognisable.
Well, Ol and Gwella in the Cornish language means all the best, and Ol and Gwella is the name taken by a group of singers from Tewin Blustry, which is the Cornish name of Newquay, one of the Cornish names of Newquay. And this is the beautiful song, The White Rose.
Your face was as red as the rose, but now your dear face has grown paler, as pale as the wee white rose. I love the white rose.
Paul and Quayle singing in Cornish as well as English in that version of The White Rose and Rose Gwyn.
And the exhibition is on now, as I say, until the 25th of September. People will have an opportunity not only to visit it and see it, but in fact to take some of it home with them.
Yeah, it's all for sale. And the other collaborators, all their work's for sale as well. So yeah, if they really like it, they can buy some of it, yeah.
And that includes the book as well.
Oh yeah. This is the new book, which includes little thumbnail illustrations of all the views. That's got one for every view, so they are all in there. Yeah, and thanks to Words and Spaces for putting up with me as always in last minute dash to get things published.
Well, Paul Quayle, go to my word, thank you very much. Sid Gilbert, you're the composer of the ambient music which accompanies the exhibition. How did you set about illustrating the illustrations, as it were?
I looked at the place. I took it as a journey. So we go from the east coast to the west, follow the sun. So we start with the sun rising over Ballure Beach in this instance because it's familiar territory, and meet the sunset in Peel. If I get the number 5 bus from Ramsey to Peel, we can look out of the windows, think about all the things that you can see along the way, and then take Paul's poetry.
An ode bech an sialúdar ag gul nai slatasan mortmain, fagan the rau in stura, mar caura, man rau e fénis jay sialúdaras, courage harish, na chummel, ons lau varu. Genaiden dau greide wel een stuurde maru na skuche de harmach van in het on, renne freelare as code, gauw Marshall. Genaiden dau greide wel een stuurde maru na skuche de harmach van in het on, renne freelare as code de honoroil, der henk beser, shadowach a wuzel as shen kassa bianca egg, as courage ons tine meriw de few bing vesh. Hanna ten sterm Hanna ten sterm doltagium gul sha, as ten joules egge ljagige, te chonnel en skeelje de valia, as ten spare gul taiach de jurgige skin chierigen sledjach Yorkshire. Nim corlesh ons tres on een na iru jouish tullium in fointen mechian a long regich ren cast a stiach o mirlach sa fort sa sterm. Whitby, a naiola me lunason. Na hager log rashen quaich a long regich sa sterm raier, she bunnes cor yindis vista smoon and tacherteen. Well, this is the quintet Schoon with 2 songs in Scottish Gaelic, Vacu na Fai, did you see the deer, and Fair of his father Gunfusa, Fair vis Anmach de Fusa, a man who's late to marry.
Redelijk barken, dans ik barken. Fakken na fe goelere varken, fakken na fe jaarlich. Fakken na fe goelere varken, soes goemal grauwstein. Fakken na fe goelere varken, fakken na fe jaarlich. Fakken na fe goelere varken, soes goemal grauwstein. Redelijk barken, dans ik barken, redelijk barken jaarlich. Redelijk barken, dans ik barken, redelijk barken jaarlich. Redelijk barken, dans ik barken, redelijk barken jaarlich. Arne zing of in stof varken, soes goemal grauwstein. Fakken na fe goelere varken, fakken na fe jaarlich. Fakken na fe goelere varken, soes goemal grauwstein. Fakken na fe goelere varken, fakken na fe jaarlich. Fakken na fe goelere varken, soes goemal grauwstein. Redelijk barken, dans ik barken, redelijk barken jaarlich. Redelijk barken, dans ik barken, redelijk barken jaarlich. Redelijk barken, dans ik barken, redelijk barken jaarlich. Arne zing of in stof varken, soes goemal grauwstein. Verder is vatig en vastig, vastig, violis, vrijdag, vierigheid. Verder is vatig en vastig, vastig, via zich voor.
a quintet called Schoon, with Céline Lefebvre singing in Scottish Gaelic, but in fact the band is from Brittany. From Schoon's album Shimorag, originally made for Co-op Braise in 2009, but released in Britain in 2018 on Topic. That was Vachú na Fai and Farabis Fádagan Fusa. Henke maach de ne rúsach ten Schoene as Varna, as te enmesich de meter. Ta ballast bonus de bollach egge je geniach fi win, les weg ach tausbeg de lucht. Eru de gistigen fooi fi woer, lient les oer.
So I took a haiku that I felt appropriate to each place or area and converted it to Morse code, and then used the Morse code pattern to drive MIDI electronic instruments and weave them into an ambient atmospheric channel, and then use separate sounds to pick out things that you'll see when you look out the window in the bus along the way, in theory.
Sid Gilbert, Gurmai Mora, thank you very much indeed.
Well, the exhibition of the work of Paul Quayle and Friends, with Paul's new book of haiku, 36 Views of Snaefell, is at the Hodgson-Loom Gallery in Laxey Glen Mills. Agnish signed on for Gael Laxer as Whitby as Corcion Claare Gael Hir Shaw. From 7 to 9 you can join Chris Pearson with the best of chill out music for Sunday evening, and then at 9 it's time for Sundown with Judith Leigh. We close with the Penguin Cafe Orchestra. And so, until the next time now, this is Robert Cutting Carswell, Robert de Carslach.
Old Bobby Bob.
Wishing you a very good night, Eve. I'm a Crieri Will you as Orsur Ye, as my Yeri and shared you.